Good afternoon. We are going to get started with our webinar today. So first, let me thank everyone for joining today's summer series webinars. We're excited to launch these. We're launching these as a part of our demonstration to current clients only around the offerings that OutMatch has, because a lot of our clients use one of our solutions, and we get the question a lot around what else does OutMatch do, and that's what these webinars are designed for. It's just to educate our client base on some of the unique things that we do, and see if there are any questions or any ways we can help your organizations out. So today's webinar is all around leadership development, leadership selection, specifically around a simulation tool that we have that our clients use in order to help select and develop the leadership within their organization. So before we get started, so my name is Zach Berkelback, so I'm Vice President of our Client Success Group. So really work closely with a lot of our clients on a day-to-day basis in what we're doing and how we're doing it, and really driving value within our organization. So today's webinar is going to be led by Rachel Aguilera-Vanderheiden, who leads up what we call our Leadership and Cultural Institute. So she's really an expert on the leadership simulation and selection and development products that we have. So I'm going to turn it over to Rachel, and she'll take us through our webinar today. So thank you for joining.
All right, wonderful, and good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Zach, so much. I'm very excited to be here and share with you a little bit around, as Zach mentioned, our leadership simulation tool that we have. As we dive into the conversation today, we'll talk a little bit about kind of what are some of those business goals or challenges that you might be experiencing that would be assigned to potentially consider this tool. And then I'll go in and give you a little bit more of visibility in terms of what does it actually look like, kind of what is the value that you get out of it, and you know, how some of our clients are using it today as we go here. So why don't we go ahead and dive in. And to get us started here, I thought it would be a good opportunity to just get a gauge of where everybody's at, and hopefully get some insight into why you may have joined the call today. So if you will take a moment and answer the question on your screen for our first poll, telling us a little bit about how effective you think your current leadership development programs are today. So just giving us a little bit of insight into that. So it looks like we've got some responses coming in here. So we'll give it another 30 seconds or so. All right. Looks like we got some great responses here. So as you can see, the majority of folks on the line here have kind of that inconsistent, somewhat effective in terms of their programs, and some little evidence of that post-program impact. So definitely something that you know, is a big challenge for organizations. So not surprised to see that, and hopefully we can have some conversations here to get you thinking about how we can impact that area of your business. So let's go ahead and do the next question for you here. We'll go ahead and dive in. If you can share with us a little bit about how confident you are that your leadership pipeline is ready for the future. So thinking of that next level, next phase of leaders, your confidence around that. All right, great. We'll give it just another couple seconds here. All right, great. Thanks everybody for participating there. It looks like we've got about an even split here of half of you are somewhat confident in that leader pipeline, and half not so confident on this one. So definitely glad to have you here, and glad we can be a part of this discussion and discovery process for you. As we go throughout, just want to call out, please feel free to chat in questions. We'll certainly make some time for that at the end. So please feel free to chime in there. But in relation to what you're all sharing here, this is not new news to us here at OutMatch, and actually in the market at a whole here. So the figures are telling us we have about, in terms of what's being spent and invested in leadership development on an annual basis, we're seeing that to be about $13 billion annually spent on leadership development. Yet when we look at the metrics around kind of what is the confidence in that and what succession planning is in place, those are not looking so great despite that effort and that investment. So only about 6% of leaders are confident that their leadership pipeline is very ready for the future, and only about 51% of leaders report a weak succession plan or nothing at all in place. So definitely similar to what we're seeing here with your responses. That's a similar trend. But overall, the investment is being made in people. So we see organizations spending, in their people and culture and continuously doing that. So clearly, this is something that is important, is receiving attention from those decision makers at the highest levels and trying to get prepared for the future here. And so to emphasize this point even further, we have some interesting statistics that were published by the Consulting Psychology Journal. So you can see here in this graph, it's pretty apparent that the investment in leadership development, steadily increasing over the years, but we're seeing that macro level confidence, so the confidence that leadership has, or that there is in leadership rather, is sharply decreasing. So there's this negative correlation. And some of you, might be shaking your head that, yes, you're feeling this pain as well. This is something that it's obviously a multifaceted problem that we're seeing here, but the bottom line is that something has to be done differently in how we're attempting to develop our leaders, something that's meaningful and that's sustainable moving forward. And so another area that's kind of just adding, fuel to the fire here in terms of the urgency around this, and again, I know a number of our clients are experiencing this pain, is that they have many of their current leaders that are going to be vacating their roles within the next 5 years. So this is something that's being felt largely across industries as we have the baby boomers kind of transitioning out of the marketplace. And so this is something that's due to, obviously, retirement is a big, cause here, but additionally, just the economy in general and the fact that there are more opportunities for leaders at other organizations, a more competitive market. So this is something that's really, highlighting the fact that something needs to happen soon in terms of developing leaders effectively, closing those gaps, and positioning the organization to meet those critical goals and have leaders take on those key positions. So this is something that we've been hearing from clients is just, their biggest objective for the year is preparing for, these upcoming vacancies and just having a plan in place to be able to continue to function effectively through those transitions. And so how can we do this in a way that is different, and it's not just perpetuating that investment for a minimal impact that we've been talking about here? And so one of the ways that we've been able to do that with our clients is through leadership analytics. And so some of the critical milestones, if we think about what's important in order to position your organization effectively for the future, there are a couple of different goals that we have been able to leverage the OutMatch Leadership Simulation to help facilitate and get organizations positioned effectively for. So if you think about what's needed, it's understanding where your current leadership is in terms of their strengths and their gap areas, which is not always easy, especially to have kind of that real-time view of that. Identifying not only the potential of your bench strength, but also what is their readiness today for that next level role. So readiness, again, having that at your fingertips is not something that's easily done today for many organizations. Taking that objective data into a talent review, that's another major pain point that we hear from our organizations, is that the data that they have is very subjective and it's not effectively identifying those individuals that are ready for succession into the next level roles. And next we see here, being able to actually build those skills. So there's the understanding piece of what does your bench look like, but then also how do we develop those skills where there may be gaps. And also as we shift as an organization, and have those business needs changing, how do we also align our leadership development and skill building to that? And after obviously having kind of that bigger picture of where are our gaps and our strengths, being able to hire in individuals that you have that confidence and demonstration that they are strong in those areas that are needed by the organization. So all of these different areas, some of these are probably sounding familiar to you and challenges that you've encountered. These are all things that we've been able to help our clients with through the use of the OutMatch Leadership Simulation. So again, getting that readiness, the objective data to create that holistic picture, the targeted development, and really empowering leaders to build those appropriate skills, and all of this having it in real time. So I think that's probably one of the biggest differentiators for our clients that use this tool. And so as we think about our approach at OutMatch here to leadership strategy, we really encourage a data-driven approach. And so this is something that as it applies at the bigger picture to the broader strategy, as well as to that individual leadership's development. And so that starts with, capturing that data, making sure that it's aligned to the business strategy and the business needs. Being able to get meaningful information and insight out of that data that's collected, and then putting it into action. So again, this is something that we encourage both at the larger strategy level as well as through the use of the simulation tool. And so taking a look at that process here, now let's go ahead and dive in a little bit more specifically to the tool, and we can talk about what that looks like with the simulation itself. And so to give you a snapshot of kind of what does this process look like in general here, it's a very simple process. So the basic information that's required is the individual's email address. So whether you have one individual that you're putting through or 100 individuals that you're putting through, you can get them uploaded in one step, and getting, in terms of the next step there, so they receive a notification, they go on and can register for their simulation any time of the day. And so this is something that especially for, busy higher levels of leadership is very beneficial, because they can do it kind of off hours to help accommodate that. And they're also given some pre-work at that point to get to know that business scenario that they will be immersed in. The next step here is they actually go through the simulation itself. So it's about 3 hours long for whenever they've scheduled it. And then 24 hours after they've completed that simulation, the results will be available in the dashboard. And so it does take the 24 hours because there are actual trained assessors that are evaluating specific behaviors, and so it takes a little bit of time for them to input all of their ratings, but that is available 24 hours after the simulation. And then once the participant receives their data and is able to kind of go over their results, then they're ready to go ahead and begin with what we call the Leader Habit app. And so I'll talk more about this as we go, but this is essentially sort of a digital personal trainer, if you will, that's taking all of the information that was captured through the simulation and pre-work experience and is now creating a tailored development plan for the individual that kind of goes with them on a day-to-day basis. And so this whole process is very simple from a management standpoint and very participant-friendly from their standpoint as well. So the actual simulation itself, as you might imagine, is a day in the life. It puts the individual within a context where they're kind of new on the job, and they have to dive in and get immersed and deal with various challenges. And so as you see here, they'll have to coach a direct report. They might have a damage control and PR issue, helping set the business strategy. So different exercises or different challenges based on the level of simulation that we're putting them through. And these are all intended to capture the individual's leadership skills. So one thing that does come up is, is this something that we can tailor to our organization? We do tailor the competencies in that output, but really the different scenarios that they're undergoing throughout this process is intended to be a vehicle for capturing those competency ratings. And so that's by level, that'll be different based on the needs of that level. And I would say another big thing here that really differentiates this process or this experience from other simulations is that there are live role plays embedded throughout. And so individuals will actually have a video chat, if you will, with the trained assessors on the other side who are playing the roles of, for instance, their boss or a direct report that's having some challenges. So they actually get the opportunity to interact with a real person and demonstrate their leadership skills. And as I mentioned, we have a couple different levels of the simulation. So depending on the level of the individual you're putting through, as well as the purpose that they're going through the process. So for instance, if you're hoping to develop somebody in role or to hire for a specific role, you would want to do the level simulation that is that current level. If you're looking for that hypo readiness or succession planning, you would likely do the level up from that individual's current role. And so the different levels, as you can see here off to the left, they're really separated by what is the overall objective of that role, target role that you're assessing this person for. Is it more around setting that vision and strategy, more on the execution of the strategy and implementing that, or overseeing individual contributors? So that's something that we partner with our clients on to make sure that we have the appropriate level and the appropriate solution in place as well. So let's go ahead and dive into the reporting that's available through the dashboard as well. So after the participant goes through the experience, like I mentioned, there's that 24-hour window, and then the reports become available within the dashboard. So a couple of things that the individual is provided with is their overall scores on the various competencies that you'll see in that back graphic there. And one thing I would like to call out is that this is norm-based. And so when you see that 68.99%, that is their overall performance compared to that global norm group. And so this is something that's really beneficial in being able to evaluate, let's say for succession planning, understanding where somebody is, even if perhaps they come from different functional areas or don't have those same metrics that you might typically look for internally within a succession planning process. So creating sort of that level playing field, both internally as well as with external candidates for selection. The other point other piece I would like to call out here is the overall potential or learning agility that you see on the bottom of the screen. And so this is pulling in, on the left-hand side, their learning orientation, so really getting at the individual's openness to learning new ideas and that innate preference there. And then on the right-hand side, you see learning aptitude, which is really getting at that processing speed and actual demonstration of learning. So that's captured within the pre-work as well. And so this information, it informs the development on the back end when they begin using that app. So it helps with some of the prediction that happens within that portion. And the next piece that we see here is a little bit more detailed behavioral information. So the participant has the big picture that we just saw, and then it drills down into specifically what behaviors were seen and not seen in various situations that they were in. And so you can see on the bottom of the screen here, there's a couple of those behaviors that are demonstrated, and it gives very fine-grained detail so that the individual can have a good sense of where is it that there were those gaps and what situations perhaps might those be in as well. So it's very systematic and scientifically rigorous on the back end in terms of the scoring that goes into these to provide the most accurate analytics for the individual, as well as what we'll talk about next here in a moment, which will be the group level insights as well. But before we move to that, let's take a quick peek at the development app, or that leader habit app that I mentioned. So this, I would say, is one of the key pieces to this simulation tool. So the simulation, it's not just providing that diagnosis and leaving it at that. It really is also providing the mechanism to build those skills and take that starting point and tailor that development experience to that leader. Like I mentioned, it's pulling in all of the information that it's learned about the individual throughout the process thus far and creating a tailored development program that's really targeting the areas that are going to be the most impactful for the individual, and where they have, they're able to make the biggest difference in terms of spending some time on that area. And so we call this the Leader Habit app because this is really based on the premise that, the research says to create a new habit takes about 66 days to build that habit. And so how do we do that? It's done over time by practice and just incorporating that into every day. And so the idea of this app is that once an individual chooses that activity that they want to focus on and create into a habit, and these are all leadership skills that were identified through the simulation, through their results, they're able to go in, say that, yes, they practiced this activity, this exercise this day, put in some notes, some comments on that. And then what's happening in the background is there's some narrow AI that's working in order to project improvement for the individual. And this is something that, again, it's basing it on those multiple factors I've been mentioning, really to have the most accurate prediction of where are they today. If they are, creating this habit over time and tracking their progress within this app, this improvement is then visible to them as an individual. You can see in the far right-hand image that it says there's 15% improvement there for that exercise. And the nice part is, we'll talk about here in a moment, that this is also visible to you all as whatever your role might be in terms of managing this experience for the individual or for their manager if they have a whole group going through. So really providing that real-time insight and readiness information into both the individual's hands to empower them to take hold of their own career and development, but also for your organization, so that they have that insight into who's actually ready and what gaps do we still have where we can target some additional support. And so, for example, one of our clients in the technology space, they're leveraging this tool with one of their year-long programs to provide that really, high-touch feel and experience throughout the year, throughout this program. And this has provided, this is an experience they've not been able to accomplish before because of the scale of the program. They just don't have that many internal resources. And so being able to have this sort of high touch, it also demonstrates that investment in the individual. So there's that piece as well to think about from the retention side of things. So let me just show you real quickly what the improvement looks like as a whole for the individual once they go into their, their dashboard again. So you can see here across the various competencies that it's indicating what is their overall improvement. And one thing I would like to call out here is that on average, we see about 10 to 15% improvement for those that actually go through the experience and go through the Leader Habit app. And so from a business standpoint, if you think about somebody that, let's say their salary was $100,000, and if we use that as sort of a proxy for their value to the organization, if they improve by 10%, that's additional $10,000 worth of value that they're providing to the organization for that same salary. So this is something that it's benefiting the individual, but it's also benefiting the organization, and that they're getting that higher caliber, higher quality leader through this process as well. So definitely something that has value for all parties here, and we've seen some great success with this as well from our clients. All right, so now let's jump into the group level analytics and reporting. So this is something that is often used by an HR champion or talent and development leadership. As you can see here, there are a couple of different views of the data that's output through this process. And so one of those is just an overall readiness assessment that you can see at the top there. And on the bottom, you can see what, it might be a little blurry, I apologize for that, but it is essentially showing what are those skill gap areas across the group that we're looking at here. And so this is something that is extremely helpful for our champions, that are managing this experience for a group going through for a development experience. So they are able to see, on the far left, we've got 5 of our individuals that have that as a gap area, whereas on the far right, only one of the individuals has that as a gap area for that competency. And so, again, I'll call it another example here of one of our clients that is using this information to help inform in real time what development activities and support is needed for one of their HIPO programs. So as they see, what gap areas there are, they can help focus their time and effort for those specific areas. Since they have limited resources, that's helping them become much more effective in that area. And this is something that I will call out. It does update with time as well. So as individuals are going through the Leader Habit app and they're developing in certain areas, this does adjust accordingly. So throughout that program, they can see, where are individuals in terms of gap areas and how is that shifting based on the exercises that they're doing. Okay, and the probably most familiar slide here, this is a 9-box placement. So this is another piece of data that's provided to you in terms of the analytics around your participants. So this is capturing both potential from the individual. So it's very precise and detailed in how it's calculated through the various measurements, and also performance on the simulation. And these are used, again, to plot individuals on this 9-box. You can see below the specific detail of each individual. And I will say, clients are able to use this if there is succession planning, you're trying to, take a look at everybody else together. If you're doing hiring, being able to evaluate candidates against one another as well. This is a really valuable tool for those specific processes. All right, and so the neat part here as well is, again, this all updates with that real-time Leader Habit app, and so you're able to see what that improvement is in both of those, in each of the areas, actually, of the dashboard as well. So on that 9-box, folks are going to be moving to the right. You'll see some motion there as they move through and use that Leader Habit app. You'll have visibility into how that shifts their 9-box placement as well in real time. Okay, and so Now let's talk a little bit about what this looks like in terms of actual use with our clients. So the OutMatch Leadership Simulation tool as a standalone, so being able to identify those strengths and opportunities in order to, being able to target where you're focusing your efforts from a development standpoint, more programmatically. All of that information that I just shared, this is all available through the tool itself. That can be something that you all manage yourselves, or something that we also have the ability to manage as well on your behalf, really depending on what's going to make the most sense for you as an organization. A lot of times, resources comes into play there as one of the decision factors in terms of time. But definitely, we accommodate both of those options there. And additionally, some of the key offerings that our clients have really appreciated over the years here, we're able to add on to the use of the simulation tool. So many of our clients will, partner with us as well for adding on sort of the selection, senior leader selection package, if you will. So, having some targeted interviews, having our trained assessors come in and provide a more in-depth assessment of an individual, especially at those higher levels. This is often leveraged there. From the development standpoint, providing additional feedback and action planning, kind of getting them off and running a little bit more intentionally. If we take a step back and think bigger picture, we also partner with many clients on bench strength analysis. So this whole idea of understanding who you've got and how do we make sense of that within the organization, and really partner with you on the strategy of that. And lastly, the targeted coaching. So that's something that certainly is common with our clients for those higher level roles that they want that additional kind of high touch experience on a more ongoing basis. So that's something we also layer on to the simulation quite frequently. So that's, in a nutshell, I'll say kind of our core offerings there. And, obviously we certainly would partner with you all to understand what is that need that you have and what would make the most sense to address that the most effectively for you. So I've kind of gone over pretty quickly here the simulation, as well as the additional offerings that we support as well. Want to go ahead and pass it back over to Zach to close that.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Rachel. And hopefully you guys have gotten a quick taste of this. And that's the design of these, is really to kind of get a quick taste of what this is. Right, and what we want to give our clients the opportunity to do is to try this out, right? If you want to do a couple of simulations, we're doing those at a very discounted price, just to give you a flavor of it, right? So you can see what it is. So we are more than happy to talk through that, and also do a deeper dive on these on this product if you'd like as well. So if you have interest in that and want to kind of go in a little bit more detail and talk through this a little bit more, we're happy to. So reach out to your client success manager, and we can set up some time to go through this in a little bit more detail as well. Okay, so we appreciate you all joining today. We did want to let you know that we have 3 more of these sessions coming up. One this Friday, where we're going to be talking about our Leadership and Culture Institute, so a little bit deeper in terms of the services that we provide. And then next week, we have a couple more products we're going to be going over. On Tuesday, we're going to go through kind of measuring culture, right? Looking at your culture from an analytic standpoint, and how you can really see where some of those gaps in your culture are, and how you might be able to fill those. And then next Friday, we're going to go through our automated reference checking tool, right? So if you do reference checks as part of your process and your selection process, how can we help you automate that and save time and save money as you're bringing candidates through your recruiting process? So if you need those were on the original invites, but if you need those invites, feel free to reach out to your client success manager as well, and we can get you the invitation links for those. So again, thank you all very much for your participation today. Like we said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we hope to see you on the session on Friday. Have a great day.